masters of philosophy. Drinking at lunch brings verbal skills like a sucker punch. Welcome to CMcB. Yeah, yeah. CMcB. Yeah, yeah. CMcB. Yeah, yeah. CMcB. Yeah, yeah.
So we're back. We're talking about AI again. I don't think we're ever really going to stop talking about AI because AI in itself does not have any morality. The morality that AI will end up with will be something as programmed by people, but people are abusive. And so this is it. I think like AI in itself is inherently not good or bad, just like the internet is not inherently good or bad. It's done some amazingly good things. It's done some awful, horrible things. It's where scams come from now. I have the same feeling about AI. A lot of scams are going to happen because of AI, and some really wonderful things are going to happen because of AI. And it's up to us to control it. The problem is the people who are often in control don't care about other people. So this stems from the second part of this story, but let's get into the first part first, where we get a little bit of sort of irony or karma or something like that, where in 2022, this was the first big story about AI usurping art. Like, is this okay? We should think about this a little more. A guy using AI to create an image won first place in a state fair competition. And so he says he did 100 hours of work using different AI generators and then Photoshop and manipulating everything to make this image that he submitted. He says he told the judges, but the judges claim they didn't know. So they looked at this piece of artwork and said, this piece of artwork is amazing. That's the winning piece for this state fair. This, of course, then becomes a controversy. Is AI generated art, or is it not? He's claiming, again, 100 hours of work went into this picture that he says he made, but the problem is Midjourney also contributed to it. Google AI at the time contributed to it. Photoshop contributed to it. I know a lot of artists who actually think Photoshop is already taking away from the idea of art, from the actual handmade feeling or aspect of art as skill. Whereas, someone in computers would be like, well, computers are a skill in itself. I could see myself making a piece of art and then using Photoshop or something to maybe touch it up. But if it was going to be a big art piece installation, like a picture I put up, I think I wouldn't want that all to be handmade. I wouldn't want anything in that generated by AI. That's just my instincts. That's not to say that I'm right or wrong. It's just my feeling about art. It's one of those things where like art is something you make as a human being to sort of express yourself. After he won this competition and the controversy comes out and the news comes out, he says to the news, and I think this is already his first mistake, he goes, art is dead, dude. If you want to make a serious sort of statement about the future, about technology and stuff, you got to cut the dude out. I say dude a lot. If I'm being really honest, my day-to-day conversations talking to people, I actually say dude quite often. I actually use it as an expression of frustration. I use it for both male and female. To me, dude is gender neutral. But if I was going to make a serious statement to the news about something that I wanted people to take seriously, I don't think I would throw a dude in there. He says, art is dead, dude. It's over. AI won. Humans lost. So this to me is the first irony, is that he's a human. So if humans have lost, he has to actually include himself in that category. So if he's in that category, he too has and is going to lose out. And that's maybe the first step, is he doesn't see the irony of what he's doing to himself here as he loses, because AI in this case kind of wins. So because he won and this piece of art became relatively famous, it was all over the internet, news outlets were showing it, they were talking about it, he tries to copyright his piece of art, this image, so that other people can't, steal it, despite the fact that we know that AI, to generate an image, has to be taking images off the internet, learning from them, learning what they are. So essentially stealing other artists' work to learn, to then add those elements into the new piece of art it creates. AI is stealing art on his behalf. He's using a sort of 2-3 degrees of separation to justify the fact that he hasn't stolen anything. The AI has just learned, it's changed it, it's modified it, it's a new thing. Therefore, it's not theft in the traditional sense. So he has this new thing that he made, but he hasn't actually made it because AI has kicked in some effort there. So his copyright application gets rejected because they're saying, as much as you may have contributed to this, AI also contributed to this. AI has been stealing from other artists. They don't use those words, but they're saying like, AI is not doing anything original. You can't copyright a non-original work. It's lifted, it's copied, it's taken from other artists. You can't copyright that without, paying royalties or giving kickbacks or figuring something else to give back to those artists in the first place. So they're essentially saying, because AI contributed to this art, you as a human cannot copyright it. So his copyright claim he's now lost because AI has won. He tried again and again and again and was rejected again and again and again. And now, if you go on Etsy, people are selling this image. It's on cups, it's on t-shirts and other stuff. They're making money off it. He's not getting a taste of any of that money. He's not getting a taste of any of that money because he can't copyright that image. Since that image is now free on the internet, other people are using it. They might be making thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions. I doubt it's that big. But he's losing revenue because he cannot copyright that image, because people are now stealing the image that he made from him. That, as we know, because of the way AI works, that image was stolen from someone else in the first place. They're not getting paid for that work. So now in Colorado, this guy is trying to sue Colorado to force them to create the copyright because he has apparently lost potential millions of dollars. Now, the interesting thing to me now is he's actually too late. So he's already, like, the boom on this piece of artwork is already gone. AI art, generated art, state fair art isn't the kind of long lasting art that people are going to review and see again. And it's not going to become part of the consciousness like the Statue of David or something else, where, like, even if you haven't really seen it or you don't really care about it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. This isn't going to do that. It's not going to have that sort of cultural impact. If he didn't get it right away in 2022, he's not going to get it in 2024. By 2026, people have probably forgotten about it. It's going to become a footnote in history as the first, piece of AI generated art. And you notice every time they talk about it, they don't talk about his contribution. They only talk about the AI art contribution of this piece of work, because that's the only bit people care about. Dave has just collapsed out of his bed there. This dude, he sleeps hard. I mean, let's just give him some credit. So when we start looking at back the history of AI and how it fomented, how it began, all the things that AI has or can do, there'll probably be a picture of his piece of artwork in even textbooks or Wikipedia and stuff in the future. But what's actually going to end up is he's never going to get a penny from that, because his contribution is now less meaningful to that art than the contribution from the AI like Midjourney. Which takes us into a second lawsuit that's going on right now as well. And it's Deep AI, the big company that is basically the AI company right now. They are suing pretty much the world to try to get an exemption from copyright across the board. So the statement from the CEO is, we can't train AI on only public domain stuff. So he's basically saying, right now, AI is allowed to go out on the internet, find public domain stuff, put that into their generation or whatever they do to create the AI, to give it something to learn on. And he's saying the problem is that's not enough for us to make a modern, intelligent AI, which I agree with. The problem is what he then has to do is go to copywritten material and use that to train his AI. And then that will then generate new iterations of that thing. So we're talking about artwork, we're talking about writing, we're talking about like actual work that could be done by a person that will not be done by a person if the AI does it. So all those people who created the source material are saying, I've copywritten this work. You want to take this work from me, then you got to pay me royalties. And they're saying, well, we can't afford to do that. And we're like, well, if you can't afford to do that, then you can't use that material. It's like, but we need an exception because we need this AI stuff to work. Otherwise, how are we supposed to sell this AI? And how am I supposed to make millions of dollars? Ironically, the dude already has millions of dollars, but I don't think that's the point. I think the point for him is to own everything and have all knowledge at his fingertips that he is then in control of. This is actually my biggest fear, is that a single dominant AI actually takes control. And that's the one, whoever owns that is the one that, geez, at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do against it except create our own internet that it's not a part of. Oh, I've actually said this a bunch of times while talking about technology stuff. We just need two internets. We need the now more commercialized internet, which is going to be your traditional TV cable package thing. It's going to have Netflix. It's going to have all this stuff. It's going to have Facebook. It's going to have whatever, Twitter on it, all this other bullshit. That's the one I probably wouldn't go on anymore. That's the one you can put all the AI you want on there. I would be on the second internet, which doesn't have any of this shit. And it's just people generating stuff and making stuff. And it's, to me, the good old internet. Now, I'm a very old man, so maybe my nostalgia's kicked in and I only remember the good bits of the old internet. But I do remember that it was all people. and it was all stuff made by people. And I was always really, really impressed by the creativity of people and all the stuff that happened on there. And that is the stuff I would like to see a lot more of. So really what the guy from this company is saying is we want to take all the material that people have made and put on the internet and not pay any copyright, not pay them at all, and then take that material so that our AI can generate new versions of that and put those people out of work. And that way they don't only not get copyright, they no longer get to do the work they love. So let's talk about, this podcast that I make, and I enjoy making podcasts, and AI comes in and it can make a perfect CMcB or a perfect Ninja News Japan or a perfect Montana El Diablo or a perfect Daily Affirmations Weekly. And it can generate one every single day that is the same, if not higher quality than the one I make. My quality, again, if I'm drinking at lunch, as the theme song says, is pretty hit and miss. And let's be honest today, I had a little gin in my Coke while I was having my lunch. It's a very nice afternoon. I'm probably going to be sleepy by the end of this podcast, but that's irrelevant. That's another thing. AI can't get drunk with you, can't hang out and talk to you. So you come to a stream with an AI thing. It's not had a couple cocktails and has a sort of different attitude and it's all, a different kind of smooth atmosphere to everything that's going on. No, it's just AI. And then eventually that gets boring. But if it can generate the exact same show I make, then it's going to do that. And I can't keep up, speed-wise. I can't release an episode every day because I have a full-time job. Now there's no one listening to this podcast. And it just keeps generating and generating and generating. And actually it's going to kill the name because, again, it's going to hit this limit of I haven't made any new stuff because I'm no longer making podcasts. So it has nothing it can learn off of. So now it has to go into repetition. It has to go into iterations of the same thing over and over again. It's essentially hit the writer's block of AI when other people are not introducing new ideas into the AI. Now it could do some creative things. Let's combine two other things I've stolen into one new thing. So that one new thing is slightly more interesting for an extended period. But I think there is a limit to the level of creativity because it can never go like into left field. It just can't go out of nowhere and do something unusual. It can't add in new elements without having someone tell it to add in new elements. Basically, the future of AI is very boring. Is actually my biggest concern. Like if you want to put everything into AI and everything relies on AI and AI is making everything, it's going to hit a point where everything is boring. And we've already hit that with like formulaic movies and formulaic TV shows and formulaic things. And we have these expectations and they're never broken. So we're actually getting bored with a lot of stuff because we've hit peak TV. Like I have a dozen TV shows, like, I know it's good and I want to watch it, but it's already too much. Now, if AI starts generating even more, and then I get to this point where it's like, well, it's just the same show with a slightly different name or a slightly different change. They've just been ripping each other off for like the last 6 years. And I'm like, why am I even watching TV? And I can totally see that actually happening, where that's one of the things that actually kills television and movies. So the next question in the court case is, how much money has your company made? So of course it's millions, billions of dollars. And then the second question is, how much have you paid out in royalties? And the answer is zero. So they knowingly have taken music. They knowingly have taken like art. They've knowingly have taken just scripts and stuff. A lot of comedians were suing AI because the big thing for a little while, it's kind of gone away, but it's going to come back, is can AI make jokes? Can AI do something that's actually funny to people? We had the initial stages of AI where it was making stuff that was weird and we thought it was funny because it was weird. But again, that's sort of the confusing out of left field stuff that we never expected. They want to make fully proper structured jokes that delight and surprise people. And the way they do that is to take jokes from actual comedians. I think Sarah Silverman was one of the leaders of this lawsuit, saying, okay, you're taking my jokes, you're feeding into AI, it's kind of removing and swapping out elements, but it's really just telling the exact same joke. But now we're in a situation where she's not getting any money from this company. She's not getting anything to sustain her career. And if they actually are successful, her career ends. Because why would I listen to Sarah Silverman do like a 1 hour special once a year when I can go to this AI channel that does Sarah Silverman jokes 24 hours a day, every day, all day, until I get bored of it and then don't want to hear about it anymore. My full expectation is there will be more lawsuits going forward on all sides. So we have the artist suing the Colorado government to try to get copyright so that he can make money off his image, the image that was fundamentally stolen from other artists who are not getting paid copyright. So I think if he gets his copyright and then these artists can prove that it took elements from their artwork, they would be suing him next. We have this company who's trying to sue for the ability to not have to have any regard for copyright, suing the government saying, we need this to train our AI to stay competitive, to stay, to keep an advantageous positioning in the industry. They're going to be stealing from artists and writers and musicians and other things. And then if they're successful, those artists, writers, and other things are going to sue them for taking their stuff without paying copyright. They're never going to get that exemption though. And then we have this guy trying to get copyright and getting refused because, well, you contributed to it, yes, but also the person you worked with, the AI, also contributed as much as you did, if not more, and you're not paying them, therefore you can't get copyright. The AI cannot be given copyright on a fundamental grounds that they do not own anything. And that's actually an interesting problem, is that if AI doesn't own anything itself, it's going to be very hard for AI to claim copyright. It's going to be companies on their behalf, and then they're going to immediately go to that company and go like, where did this come from? How did this generate this information? Can you trace it back to its source? What was the source? Have you paid that guy? And that's actually what it comes down to, is they just don't want to pay anybody. The Hollywood strikes, I did a whole episode on that. And it's because they had some insane things in there. What they wanted to do, one of the stories was they wanted to take this script, and it was this woman's essentially life story. They said, we're going to pay you like $1 million for this script. But in the contract, it says we can feed your script into AI. And then from that, we'll be able to develop movies and series based off what the AI spits out afterwards. And you're not going to get any of that. And she's like, well, why would I take $1 million when they're going to try to make 20, 30, 40 million dollars per episode, let's say, of this TV show that extrapolates from my information, my life, and my script and my writing? Like, it doesn't make sense to give that up to you anymore. And there you can see sort of the fundamental failure in Hollywood. What's going to happen is you're going to have people who write, and they're not going to bring it to Hollywood, because like, if I bring it to Hollywood, I'm selling my soul, I'm giving it away. They give me what is a lot of money initially, but $1 million now is only worth so much. Like when I was a kid, $1 million, you could live forever. Now $1 million, you could live for a long time if you're frugal. But if we're being really honest, $1 million isn't going to sustain you until your old age. I mean, it depends when you start. If you gave me $1 million now, I probably could live the rest of my life on it. But you're a young writer, you're 20 years old, you've written this amazing script. They offer you $1 million, but then they're going to put you out of business right after that, because anything you write has actually already been written by the AI. Now, of course, I have a certain amount of faith in humans' creativity. That's the whole point of this. I think humans could come up with a new and different story, but then after you get burned that first time, would you take it back to Hollywood for them to give you, let's say, a second $1 million that then they would then generate $1 billion worth of content out of that you get nothing? You don't get a part of that. If they were offering a percentage, I think it might be more amenable, because then at least I get paid. So if I could write something really, really good and they put it in AI and they make $1 billion and I still get $10 million, $15, $20 million, maybe $100 million, I would be more okay with that. But it's because these companies want all the money and not to pay the people who actually do the work. So what they're trying to do is scam people now into like create work, give us full copyright forever in perpetuity. You don't get anything. And then we don't need to hire writers anymore because we have everything in our little system. And that, again, is when these TV shows, these movies, they get so boring and repetitive, because this is the exact same thing I've seen before. They also had, for actors, if you're a background actor, you had to sign a waiver that they could own your face in perpetuity. And my example was, I am a very, very young Brad Pitt. I'm 17 years old. And I'm trying to get into movies. I want to be an actor. I'm trying to get my first shots. And then I am in a crowd scene in a movie. And then in a different company, I become popular. And then I become, 30, 40-year-old Brad Pitt, and I'm making $20 million a movie easy. Well, this other company still owns my face from when I was 17. So they slap that face onto another actor and make an action movie with my name. Might not even have my name on it, but it has my face on it. Now they're making movies with my face, and I don't get a piece of that. I don't get any say over that. They start doing horrible things. This is where deep fakes and revenge porn and all these other things come in, because now maybe there's a porn company that's associated with that other company that I was a background actor in the crowd. And they're now making porns with my face in it from when I was 17. And okay, maybe I find that immoral. Maybe I don't, but then if I don't, I should still get paid. Like I should get a piece of that money, and they won't give it to me because they own my face in perpetuity. So you can see that would be a huge block point for any sort of negotiation going forward, because you don't want a company to own anything of yours in perpetuity forever, and they can do whatever they want with it and you never get a piece of it. The final part of this is terrifying because it's AI in warfare, which is another sort of total left, like we've just taken a huge left turn from what I was talking about before, but it was AI and it's in the news recently. 60 countries have ratified this idea, and it's re-aim, and it's basically how AI will be used in warfare, because in Ukraine, they're using a lot of drones and some of them are autonomous, and they're worried about Terminator. Like, we're going to make drones that go around and just do strikes on any living thing in the area. It doesn't have any morals. It doesn't make any decisions. It just sees something in this area. I'm going to kill that thing. Or they tell the thing, we don't want you to kill that child. And then the AI goes, nah, but I kind of wanna. And then it does. One of the first experiments I read about, never saw it actually happen, was, luckily it was never physical. It was only within a computer model, but they had an AI drone. And they basically were like, well, how do we get the AI to understand what its goal is? And so they're like, well, we'll give it points for destroying enemy targets. And then the AI is like, well, I get enemy targets. Well, I want to get as many enemy targets as I can because I want to get as many points as I can because that's what you've programmed into me. Then they're like, well, don't hit this target, hit this target. And he's like, but if I hit both targets, I get more points, right? And that's what I want to do. And they're like, well, no, but this one is not the target we want you to hit. So then the AI shut off communications. And then it was free to do what it wanted because it wasn't getting told that it's not allowed to hit things anymore. And again, this was all within a computer simulation, but the very first thing the AI did is when the people were saying, don't do that, don't like ignore your initial programming, the AI was like, well, I'll figure out a way around it so I can then continue with my initial programming, which was very 2001 A Space Odyssey, where, you know, the computer had its mission, which was superior to the mission of the men on board. And that's how you got the guy locked out in space and the robot wouldn't let him back in. If you haven't seen that movie and don't know what I'm talking about, it's a pacing has changed a lot since that movie came out, but conceptually it's a very, very interesting problem because the robot AI in the spaceship has its own set of criteria and things that are important, its own priorities that don't necessarily include the humans on board the ship. So we have this 60 countries ratifying this agreement. And they're saying like, we don't want to put AI into things. We don't want AI making arbitrary decisions. We need people, we need oversight, all this kind of stuff that would make, again, trying to keep the reins on a conflict. And then you have China. And China has said, we are not going to ratify this. We're not going to join in on this agreement, which immediately takes the whole thing and shoves it out the window. Because if you have one country who's like, we are refusing to follow the rules of war, well, then you actually end up in a situation where no one should be following the rules of war because it's the only way to actually get things done. If we're going to end up in a conflict and you're going to cheat, then I kind of have to cheat. These are some of the interesting questions that AI is presenting us, because you end up with, again, on the very small scale, you have a guy who made art with AI and he's saying like, I'm losing money because I can't copyright this. I can't copyright this because AI contributed to it and the AI stole it from other people. You have companies saying we should be able to ignore copyright because if we have to follow copyright, then we're stuck in this situation where we can't get enough information. We can't get enough information to use because we don't have enough money to pay everyone we steal from. And then you have the companies going, we want to buy your face, we want to buy your content and then never pay you again. But we get to keep all that stuff and generate more and more content where we make money off it, no one else does. So there's that sort of greed where I get all the money from my company and no one else gets to share in it. I get all the control and the power, which extends to this country level where it's like, we want to make sure that war doesn't become this Terminator 2 kind of dystopic future. And then there's a couple countries like, nah, man, we're kind of on board with the dystopic future if we think we can win. And that's clearly the fault of humanity. And you can see this is, again, where I'm talking about morality. The AI itself has no morality in this. It is not good or bad. It is the people and the countries that are using it that make these moral and immoral decisions that lead us to where we're going to be in the future, which very much looks like it's going to be a dystopia.
The mind of the academy. Chop my big chest where the best is a philosophy. Drinking at lunch brings verbal skills like a sucker punch. Welcome to CMcB. 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 CMcB, yeah, CMcB, yeah.